Why you struggle to make the right choices even when you have all the facts, the psychology of mental fog, and how to sharpen your critical thinking in 5 steps. Welcome to Catsychology channel. In a world where we are constantly bombarded with information, the ability to think clearly is more than just a skill, it is a necessity for survival and success. Have you ever felt like your brain is a computer with too many tabs open? You have the data, you have the logic, but somehow the conclusion remains blurry. Today, we are diving deep into the art of clear reasoning as we explore 5 tips to improve your critical thinking skills. This is a journey from mental clutter to intellectual precision. Imagine a cat stalking its prey in the tall grass. It does not just pounce blindly at the first movement it sees. Instead, it pauses, adjusts its ears to triangulate the sound, and calculates the exact distance with its whiskers before making a move. This deliberate pause is the essence of critical thinking. Most of us, however, act like a cat chasing a laser pointer, reacting instantly to every flash of light without questioning who is holding the remote. To break this cycle, we must first understand the concept of cognitive biases. These are the mental shortcuts our brains take to save energy, but they often lead us to the wrong destinations. One of the most dangerous is confirmation bias, which is the tendency to search for, interpret, and recall information in a way that confirms our pre-existing beliefs. As Daniel Kahneman famously wrote in his groundbreaking book, Thinking Fast and Slow, a reliable way to make people believe in falsehoods is frequent repetition, because familiarity is not easily distinguished from truth. This explains why we often fall for misinformation just because we have heard it before. To counter this, our first tip is to question your assumptions. Every time you feel certain about something, ask yourself, what if the opposite were true? This creates a mental friction that prevents you from sliding into lazy thinking. Consider the story of Sarah, a marketing executive who was convinced that her new campaign was failing because the product's price was too high. She spent weeks gathering data on competitor pricing and preparing a presentation to lower the cost. However, her mentor challenged her to look at the problem through a different lens. Instead of assuming price was the issue, Sarah started looking at the user experience on the website. She discovered that the Buy Now button was broken for mobile users. If she hadn't questioned her initial assumption about price, she would have wasted thousands of dollars in revenue. This is the power of critical thinking in action. It saves us from solving the wrong problems. The second tip is to develop intellectual humility. This is the recognition that the things you believe might be wrong. It is not about being indecisive, it's about being open to new evidence. When we approach a problem with the mindset that we already know everything, we close our eyes to the most important details. A cat knows it cannot catch every bird, so it remains humble and patient, learning from every missed jump. We must do the same. We must become comfortable with the phrase, "I don't know." In fact, saying "I don't know" is often the first step to true understanding. To practice this, you can use the 5 whys technique. Whenever you encounter a problem, ask why 5 times in succession to get to the root cause. If your car won't start, don't just assume the battery is dead. Why won't it start? Because the starter motor won't turn. Why won't the starter motor turn? Because it's not receiving electricity. Why is it not receiving electricity? Because a wire is frayed. By the time you get to the 5th why, you have moved past the surface-level symptom and found the actual issue. This systematic approach strips away the ego and focuses purely on the mechanics of the problem. Critical thinking is not about being the smartest person in the room, it is about being the person most willing to follow the truth, no matter where it leads.
The third tip to elevate your reasoning is to gather diverse perspectives. We often live in echo chambers, surrounded by people who think exactly like we do, and algorithms that feed us exactly what we want to hear. This creates a filtered reality where our biases are constantly reinforced. To break out of this, you must seek out information from sources you normally disagree with. It is not about changing your mind every time you hear something new. It is about understanding the landscape of an argument. If you only know your side of a story, you don't really know the story at all. As John Stuart Mill wrote in his classic work on liberty, "He who knows only his own side of the case knows little of that." This principle is vital for critical thinking. When you encounter a conflicting opinion, don't immediately move to debunk it. Instead, try to Steelman the argument. This means constructing the strongest possible version of your opponent's position before you try to find its flaws. If your reasoning can survive a confrontation with the strongest version of a counter-argument, then your conclusion is truly robust. A cat doesn't just look at its toy from one angle. It circles it, sniffs it from the left, watches it from the right, and even looks at it upside down. By the time the cat pounces, it has a 360-degree understanding of the situation. We must apply this same spatial awareness to our thoughts. The fourth tip is to practice logical self-defense by recognizing common fallacies. A logical fallacy is a flaw in reasoning that renders an argument invalid. One of the most common is the ad hominem attack, where someone attacks the person making the argument instead of the argument itself. Another is the straw man fallacy, where someone misrepresents an opponent's position to make it easier to attack. By learning to spot these glitches in logic, you become immune to manipulation. You start to see through the emotional fluff of political speeches, advertisements, and even your own internal justifications. In The Demon-Haunted World, Carl Sagan proposed a Baloney detection kit for critical thinking. He argued that we should always look for independent confirmation of facts and avoid getting overly attached to a hypothesis just because it's ours. When you find yourself getting angry during a debate, that is usually a sign that your logic has failed and your ego has taken over. Take a deep breath and return to the evidence. If the facts don't support your feelings, it is your feelings that need to change, not the facts. This is the hallmark of a high-level thinker, the ability to prioritize objective truth over temporary emotional comfort. Finally, the fifth tip is to think about the long-term consequences. Critical thinking isn't just about solving a problem today, it's about making sure your solution doesn't create 3 more problems tomorrow. This is called second-order thinking. Most people stop at the first consequence. For example, if I eat this cake, I will feel happy. That is first-order thinking. Second-order thinking asks, if I eat this cake every day, how will my health look in 6 months? And how will that affect my energy levels and my ability to achieve my goals? By extending your vision into the future, you align your daily choices with your long-term values. A cat might see a shiny object on a high shelf and want to jump for it, but a seasoned cat considers the landing. It looks at the narrow ledge, the slippery floor below, and the fragile vase in the way. It weighs the immediate reward against the potential disaster. This foresight is what separates a successful hunter from a cat stuck in a tree. To apply this to your life, use the 10-10-10 rule. Before making a significant decision, ask yourself, how will I feel in 10 minutes? How will I feel in 10 months? How will I feel in 10 years? This simple reframe forces your brain to step out of the immediate emotional now and into the broader context of your life. Improving your critical thinking is a lifelong journey of sharpening the mind and softening the ego. It requires the patience of a predator and the curiosity of a kitten. By questioning your assumptions, staying humble, seeking diverse views, spotting fallacies, and thinking ahead, you transform your mind from a passive receiver of information into a powerful tool for navigation. If you found these tips helpful, make sure to subscribe to the Catsychology channel for more deep dives into the human mind. Leave a comment below telling us which of these tips you find most challenging to practice. And don't forget to like this video to help others find their way out of the mental fog. Until next time, keep thinking clearly and stay curious.